Detective John Harker stood on the precipice of an abyss. The cold, unforgiving wind from the churning waters below whipped against his face as if to announce the end of his watch. He had walked the thin blue line for 30 years, a stoic guardian of law and order. But the years had left their marks on him, like the salty spray of the waves had corroded the iron railing beside him. In the distance, he could see the lighthouse of truth, its beacon piercing the fog of moral ambiguity that haunted the city. The light had guided him through countless nights, cutting through the darkness of doubt and uncertainty. But now, the lighthouse seemed to flicker, the light dimming as his journey neared its end. Beside him, a solitary raven perched on the railing, its ebony feathers gleaming in the dying light of day. Harker had often admired the raven's intelligence, its ability to navigate the intricate labyrinth of the city with ease. But now the bird seemed to symbolize something darker, a harbinger of the impending dusk that awaited him. He cast his gaze upon the city that had been his charge for 3 decades. From high above, the metropolis seemed like a vast chessboard, a game he had played for years, moving pieces to protect the innocent and corner the wicked. But he had sacrificed much in his pursuit of justice, and now the board was stained with the blood of those he could not save. Harker's hands, once strong and steady, were now cracked and calloused from the weight of the gun he had carried. The weapon, a testament to the struggle between good and evil, had spoken the truth when the world was deaf to his pleas, but it was also a reminder of the price he had paid, the shadows that followed him even in the brightest of days. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sky was painted with hues of crimson and gold, a bittersweet reminder of the fleeting nature of time. Harker felt the heaviness of his own mortality, like a stone anchor tethering him to the earth. He had stood on the edge of darkness many times before, but this time it felt different. This time he could not find the strength to pull himself back. His partner, Detective Sandra Wheeler, approached him, her steps cautious but determined. She had been his compass through the storm, the calm voice of reason in the face of chaos. Wheeler's eyes held a quiet sadness, a silent acknowledgement that they had reached the end of their journey together. "John, it's time," she said softly, her hand reaching out to grasp his. Her touch was a lifeline, a final tether to the world he had sworn to protect. He looked into her eyes, and for a moment he saw a glimmer of hope, a spark of the fire that had once burned within him. But the weight of his choices, the heavy burden of his duty, threatened to snuff out the flame. In that moment, Harker understood the true nature of the abyss that lay before him. It was not the ocean that threatened to swallow him whole, but the void that he had created within himself. A chasm born from the sacrifices he had made, the losses he had endured, and the secrets he had kept. He turned to Wheeler, his voice barely a whisper. "I've done my time, Sandra. I've walked the line. Now it's time for me to cross it." With a slow, deliberate movement, Harker removed his badge from his chest, the metallic emblem that had defined him for so long. He held it in his hand, the weight of the gold and steel heavier than ever before. As the sun dipped below the horizon, he raised the badge to his lips, pressing a final, solemn kiss upon it. It was a gesture of both reverence and farewell, a tribute to the years of service and the lives he had touched. He looked into Wheeler's eyes, his own brimming with unshed tears, and handed her the badge. "Take care of the city for me," he whispered, his voice laden with the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. Wheeler nodded, accepting the symbol of his life's work. Her eyes held a promise, a vow to continue the fight for justice that they had started together. With a quiet strength, she turned and walked away, leaving Harker to face the abyss alone. As the final rays of sunlight vanished, the abyss beckoned, a siren call luring him towards the edge. Harker closed his eyes, and for a moment he was back at the beginning of his journey, a young officer filled with hope and idealism. He remembered the pride in his heart as he took the oath to protect and serve, the fire that had burned within him. But he was no longer that young officer, and the world had changed. The chessboard had been replaced by a tangled web of gray, where the lines between right and wrong had blurred beyond recognition. He had fought the darkness for so long, but now it was time to surrender. With a final breath, Harker stepped into the void, embracing the darkness as an old friend. As he fell, the abyss swallowed him whole, erasing the man he had once been. But the flame that he had ignited continued to burn, a beacon of hope for those who remain.